All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to talk about how we learned to stop worrying and love Heroku Connect. So to get started, my name is Aaron Gilbert. I work at Aperio, and this is my colleague
Hey guys.
Blaine
Yeah.
Rothrock. Also works at Aperio, and so we're going to talk a little bit about how Heroku Connect can help you move beyond Salesforce, with still leveraging Salesforce. So we all know Salesforce is generally the lifeblood of the business. It's the system of record for really important things to everyone's organization. It's important to control the development that goes on there because any custom work has to be supported, maintained, and it has to work in production, test code. There's a lot that goes with that. Moving beyond the system of record is something you can do to open that data without risking the stability of that system. And Heroku Connect is a really great tool that lets us do that, leveraging the Heroku platform and a number of add-ons from there. So for sort of a high-level view of what we're talking about, this is a sort of an image of what this architecture might look like. Obviously, Salesforce is there on the left, which Heroku Connect brings the data from Salesforce to Heroku in Postgres, and then we're using a little Loopback API there to prop up the API and send it to our mobile app, which we're going to demo for you here in a minute.
Yeah, cool. So we have our Salesforce environment set up. We have Heroku Connect configured, and we have all of our mappings to our standard and custom objects already done. If you haven't seen that, it's great. It's a really great point and click GUI to do all of that in Heroku Connect. So what we're using is a node framework called Loopback. It's an open source framework that allows us to get really, really quick end-to-end REST services and connect it to our Postgres database really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and demo that. This takes a second for it to end the presentation. So what we have here is just a generated Loopback project, nothing fancy. We have a connector to our database. Really simple. It has a bunch of connectors to a bunch of different databases, but we're using Postgres. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this. Give it a minute to boot up. And we don't have anything set up in here, so I'm just going to refresh this page. We're pointed to localhost. This is our Swagger documentation, so this is generated automatically from Loopback. And you can see we don't have any endpoints, so there's nothing there. So we're going to change that. So I go back into here. What we have is a script. Oops. A script here that will parse the schema of the Postgres database, and we'll be able to write those into JSON files and standard controllers, and then we can have access to them end-to-end in our API really quickly. What this will also do is a couple of things. So it's creating the files, creating the controllers, and it's also going to output to Swift so that we can then import those files using the Loopback SDK into our iOS application. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. It's just a node script. So as you'll see when this stops running, we get a bunch of files that are generated here. And I'll show you those. So inside the models, for each of the objects that we have in our Salesforce schema and our Postgres database, we have a JSON that defines the model, defines the table. Has a list of properties, which are just the columns. And then we also just have a open controller where we can put any limitations on our endpoints or add our own or do a bunch of stuff in there. But from right now, it's just wide open end to end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run our application again. I did not show. We also have Swift files here. So our Swift files, we have an object with Loopback using the Loopback SDK that defines our properties. It's basically goes down to an NS object, really easy to use. And a repository that gives us access to the Loopback SDK for that particular object. So running our application again and refreshing this Explorer page, you can now see we have endpoints for all of our objects. I'll just go into account, and we open this up, and we have all the endpoints here, a bunch of stuff to do, very general. And I will just do a get of all of our accounts, and you can see it's returning the JSON there, and I can even show you that
And that's the data right from the Salesforce org.
That is data directly from the Salesforce org connected to our connected through Heroku Connect in Postgres. So if I hit that, I now have
very nice.
Now have an API, and obviously you can go into Loopback. Offers a lot of authentication modules, and then also you can limit your API or do whatever you want with your API just within Node.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. The next thing we have is a mobile application, so a really simple sales enablement tool that allows us to capture leads. It's actually kind of similar to the scanning stuff that we have for Dreamforce. So what I'm going to do is show you that. So we have this application. If I click in, I get all of our accounts just like you saw in our services. You can view info about those accounts. You can view our products. And then what we can do is we can go in and add a lead. So I hit new lead. Aaron, can I have your driver's license?
No.
Please.
Okay.
So just utilizing iOS, we have the ability to scan a license natively on the app.
Sketch. I don't know about this.
Demos never work when it's time to make them work.
It's got to be the lighting.
Yep.
With the demo gods.
There we go. So we got Aaron in here. We got his address. That's his old address, so it doesn't mean anything. Type in the information that wasn't in there. And now this is going to hit our Loopback API and then sync up to Salesforce automatically with Heroku Connect, and we'll show you that in a little bit.
All running on Heroku right now. Okay.
So before we do that, I'm going to walk through just a couple of use cases we would use this architecture for. So walking through a couple of them, enhanced data management capabilities. So if you have, why would you use Heroku Connect, and why would you extend your Salesforce application to use Heroku Connect or Heroku in general? So high data volume, things like images or videos. You can do add-ons. You can have your own system for storing that, but it's not necessarily something that you would want in Salesforce. So different data sets and different databases. So using Mongo, Redis, Hadoop, any other type of database that you want to use, you can integrate that with to aggregate your data to and from Postgres and then to Salesforce and utilize that from within Heroku. Another use case is a large number of transactions. So I'm going to walk through something that you may not want to hit Salesforce immediately that you're going to do a lot of transactions on from within Heroku. So for example, order processing. You could have a bunch of things that you do to an order while it's in progress, while you're talking to somebody, or just your general business processes. So, and you may not want that to go to your sales team until it has reached a different status. So you can do that by doing something like copying your table from within Postgres, having one that's synced, one that's not, and then pushing that over with the database trigger. Another example of consumer insights, if you're tracking clicks and things like that, lots of stuff going on, and you may not want that to hit Salesforce Live, so you can push that back and forth. Next slide, please. Moving on, so Heroku allows you to have multiple instances really easy. You can point and click and spin something up. So hosting multiple applications is really easy. You may have an application that requires a lot of dynos, will have a lot of traffic, but may not need a lot of processing power, where you would have a different application that may need more dynos. So separating that and utilizing your system for microservices. And then also it just makes it easier for your development and deployment, and also if you use different languages. So you can also, doing that, you can separate your different functionalities into microservices within your application. So for example, payment processing can be a really painful piece for development, and you want that code to be, because usually it's certified, or it may even have compliance reasons to be separated. And you can separate that in a different Heroku instance and connect the data to your Salesforce Postgres through multiple Heroku environments. And the last one, legacy applications. So if you already have applications that you either have running on Heroku or can move to Heroku, you can build connectors to that through another Heroku instance. For example, here using MuleSoft to connect your applications through to Heroku.
All right. So let's go look at that lead that we generated a minute ago on Blaine's demo. Great. So
First one.
All right, so we have leads here. These are today's leads. Refresh this view. We should see new ones. Yes, great. This is from right now. This is so this is the lead Blaine just created off my driver's license. What you saw was he basically he scanned that sent it to Heroku. Heroku sent it to Salesforce, and then what Salesforce did with it, I'll show you now. We took advantage of the Salesforce magic here. Little workflow rule, just some basic fun stuff to kind of give the business use case here. So we have a new lead created, and then we have these actions here. So just a few things. We create a task, we create a follow-up reminder, and then we change some fields on it. And you can see here in my email that this has actually happened at 10:52. We got these emails here. New lead has been assigned, lead info, and same here. New task, groovy. So that shows you sort of what that end-to-end, how to get data into Salesforce, how easy that can be to take advantage of in your business. But now we can also do some other cool stuff here around managing that mobile space or that external application space with just some basic config, just some clever config work. You can see here, this is a base application or an example of a base application. Some technical details here, application version, API version, platform, and then some sort of default settings for colors and lead creation enabled, which was the action that you guys just saw Blaine do. So if I was in here and this is the default, but this is now, so in this application we have Blaine's device registered here, and that's his UUID, which arguably is more information than my driver's license was, so that's probably scary. The external application it links to, and then the specific settings for this user. So if I change his role from sales to support, you can see he lost the lead creation capabilities, and now his app won't be able to use that action to create the lead. And that'll take effect as soon as this record is picked up by Heroku Connect. Typically, it's 2-minute round trip, or you can use streaming API to do it immediately. And we have the streaming API turned on, so this should be updated for Blaine now. Was that? Cool, yeah. So that's sort of the Salesforce piece of
Trade me.
the system here that we're showing off. Great. So yeah, this sort of summarizes what I just talked about. Obviously, Heroku Connect, great for getting data in and out of Salesforce, but you can also use Salesforce to be a flexible configuration tool for these applications that generally are stuck behind really long deployment cycles or complex distribution platforms, things like that. When you can make changes with clicks, not changing code, you can respond a lot faster to the needs of your users in the market. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, so I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this and just provide an example of how you could use this configuration to drive your deployments in some way. And there's many possibilities that you can do with this. But one example is using API version control. So embedding your API into your string or into somewhere in your request so that you know what version of API that you're using in your backend system. And then also utilizing that so that you have a system that can use different versions. So if you're moving from version 1 to version 2, you can not deprecate version 1 and keep it around. So if you have a fail-safe for if something goes wrong in version 2. So obviously this would take a lot of deployment planning in order to make this happen in a mobile application, but you can have your application respond to that and be able to roll back versions very easily using a configuration object like we showed on the app level. So it becomes safer to deploy. And going into Salesforce is a point and click to control what happens in your applications and what your users see. And in this case, it can help on a level that maybe you didn't think about.
Great.
So back to the app.
Yeah, let's check on that setting change I made for you, configuration change.
Yep. So give that a second. Okay, so going back into the app here, maybe. Come on. We have a minute, so that's okay.
No love.
Oh, let's quit it. There I am.
Hi, Blaine.
Hey.
Classic.
Really? Okay, well.
Reflector.
Sorry about this, guys.
The configuration change is easy, but running the demo is actually, that's hard.
Exactly. Well, it does not want to show my iPhone screen. It thinks it's there.
You have reflector? You have reflector on there?
Huh?
You have reflector on there? Installed reflector?
I can't hear you at all.
Do you have reflector installed?
I do not have reflector installed.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I don't know, man. It didn't work for me either. Well, that's fun. So what happened in the application while I restart my phone and see if that works is we we changed the configuration so you'd be able to see the configuration in the settings of the application. And then what we did is we turned off leads so we can no longer create leads in the application. So that button is disabled for the user. And when you go in into develop, you can build your applications that way so that you can have them being controlled from Salesforce and from these configuration settings that it pulls down to start with. Yeah, and my phone's rebooting, so we'll give it one more shot because we have time.
We could open questions while we're waiting on that.
Yeah, we could.
I'll
give it some. Well, we have our conclusion, so we'll go ahead and continue, and I'll work on this, and then we'll see if we can show it because we're gonna have time for questions anyway.
That was supposed to be the grand finale. Fantastic. So basically, this is a summary of what we've learned. Be creative in your use of this new technology. That's really the goal here, because this is a powerful thing, and it's a new thing that has been traditionally super hard and the hard thing to do. And so the goal was always just to do that, but now that that's easy and that's taken care of, think about how we can use that and what we can do to change sort of the space that we're in. And yeah, so that's that. Any questions?
Yeah, open it up for Q&A. And then while we do that, I'll jump back over here.
I got a quick question. Have you guys, like using Postgres, have you noticed like any sync issues where maybe something changes in Postgres, but that also changes in Salesforce? And like there's a conflict there?
So all of that is managed by Heroku Connect itself, the tool, as far as the sync state and where changes get updated when. And it's all it's very painless. So it's really been a non-issue.
I got a question.
Yeah.
You said Heroku Connect connects Salesforce to Postgres. Do you have to use Heroku Postgres? Or can I fire up my own Postgres on my own data center?
Excellent question. You can fire up your own Postgres wherever you like. It runs on a connection string. That's a setting in your Heroku instance. And you can create that to point at any Postgres you want.
Thank you.
Yep.
Cheers.
Yep, so when you create a Postgres add-on, it automatically adds the environment variables to Heroku, and then you can add those variables yourself for your own database.
Yep.
Anywhere else. Couldn't get my phone to work, so my computer may be broke.
All right. Well, thanks for the time, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hope it was fun. Yes, thank you.
And we'll be around the area if you have any other questions or want to talk to us. We'd be glad to talk to you.